Welcome to the KR Films Entertainment channel. Today's video will be going through the 2009 action fantasy film Avatar. It's time to recall. Let's get started. To run subtitles and spoilers ahead. In 2150 for the Resources Development Administration AK already 8 recruits Jake Sully, a paraplegic and former Marine, is to end. Rather, Tom, who worked for the RDA, was killed and now they need Jake as his replacement for the Avatar program on a planet called Pandora because as his twin and his genome he's the only one that can activate Tom's avatar. Jake agrees and is put in a cryo-sleep chamber where he sleeps for almost 6 years as the crew travels to the planet. When Jake arrives, he meets the head and team of the Avatar program, Dr. Grace Augustine and Dr. Norm Spellman, who was also a friend of Tom. He learns that Pandora's atmosphere is poisonous to humans and its land is ruled by a species called the Navi, 10-foot-tall blue-skinned humanoids. The Navi worship the Mother Nature goddess you are in order to explore. The lead humans temporarily transfer their consciousness, who avatars a human-Navi hybrid that humans have created and can only be activated by its own biological owner. Jake and Norm entered their avatar bodies for the first time in. Jake feels ecstatic to be able to walk and run for the first time in years. Either inmates, truly a combat pilot assigned to the Avatar 2. Who introduces him to the Colonel Miles Quaritch. Colonel Quaritch comes up with a deal for Jake. He will join the Avatar team other expeditions, but he will report everything he knows about the Navi and their home tree, which is sitting on the largest supply of unobtainium and Pandora. The RDA is mining this mineral to take back, and so on Earth. In turn, the Colonel will make sure that the car opening funds the replacement for Jake's legs. Jake agrees. He joins Grace and Norm as their escort on their research expedition. When the scientists search for samples, a vicious beast called the Dechant attacks Jake, tearing him away from the group. He barely escaped with his life and is soon left in a jungle struggling to survive until a few male Navi names Neytiri saves him. Made here, he feels a strong attraction to Jake's brave heart but thinks he is too stupid and naive. Seeds from the spirit tree land on Jake and Neytiri takes this as assigned to take him to her clan, the Amar to kayak. He has met with hostility especially from Sue, take the heir to the chief and in ship and a terrorist via. Say Jake needs the clan's chief and priestess Yatukin and Moet, who also happen to be Neytiri parents. After much deliberation, Moet decides to take in Jake and have Neytiri teach him their ways of life. Jake settles in through the night with the clan and he is instantly brought back to the Avatar simulator. He reports everything he's learned to go Grace as well as to Colonel Quaritch. The Colonel gives Jake 3 months to convince the baby to move or else they will be bombing their home tree. Grace grows suspicious of Jake's dealings with the Colonel, so she transfers the team to a remote outpost at the floating mountains of Pandora. Over the next 3 months, Neytiri teaches Jake the ways of the Navi. She tells Jake that once he is ready, you will have to choose his own. He grinned. A winch be the Navi is used to hunt and he will finally become a warrior. Jake learns to track and herd the wildlife and also begins to understand the spiritual connection between all the beings and Pandora. Soon enough, Jake grows sympathetic with the Navi and starts falling in love with Neytiri. Once he gets his first clean kill, Neytiri, Sooty and other Navi go to the floating mountains to get their own egg grand. They reach the he grand's nest and Zoo take orders Jake to choose first. In order to choose one, the egg grand must choose him first. By trying to kill him, he manages to take down one of the beasts and bonds with it through the nerve endings on its hair. Neytiri pushes them off the cliff, forces Jake to fly with the secret to solidify the bond. As they're flying there, he grand Tori face it almost ill-fated encounter with the Tora, a muggy dragon-like beast that the Navis fear and worship. Only 5 Navis in history have been able to tame and ride the 2 work, including Neytiri's great-grandfather. The 3 months come to an end of the team goes back to the facility. Colonel Quaritch gives Jake the ultimatum, but he asks the Colonel for an extension just until his final ceremony is over and he becomes one of them and can convince them to relocate. The day of the ceremony arrives and Jake is finally accepted into the Amount Kayak land. Now that he is one of them, Neytiri takes Sig into the Tree of Souls. The Tree of Souls is one of the Navi most sacred places where the memories of their ancestors are stored. They can access these memories by tying their nerve endings to the fibers of the tree. It is also one of the places with the most unobtainium deposits. Neytiri tells Jake that he can now choose a wife. He then proposes to Neytiri, who happily accepts under the Tree of Souls. They to kiss and connect, nerve endings binding themselves to each other for the rest of their lives in the eyes of their god. While as morning breaks, Neytiri is awakened by the sounds of a large machine. A bulldozer has come from the RDA tearing up the Tree of Souls. Neytiri, he tries to wake Jake, but he is currently out of the simulation and remains unconscious by the time job E.G. wakes up, he sees a frantic Neytiri dragging him away. He signals the bulldozer to stop, but it continues on plowing. He then climbs the machine and start destroying the cameras. With the crew start shooting at him, they run away with Neytiri sobbing as she watches the machine store down their sacred place. Meanwhile, the RTA catches the footage of Jug destroying the cameras and is able to identify him. Terry make it back to the home free, where he tries to persuade A to kinda relocate for the safety of the class. Today attacks Jake, accusing him of meeting with his be true for A tier. He admits to this, says it cannot be undone as they know bounded be for A. While at the outpost, Norm tries to stop the soldiers as they pull Jake and Grace from the simulators. But it's too late. Jake takes the opportunity to state his final plea, but Grace faint before he can say anything. They are brought back to the facility and Jake's truly genes is revealed through a video log stating that the Navi will never give up their home. Colonel Quaritch decides to pull the plug and bomb the Navi away from the home tree. Race then tells the comp thread that they can't destroy the home tree because it will destroy the biological neural network native to Pandora. The synapses connecting all of them together are like one enormous brain. The RDA isn't fully convinced but agrees to give the team 1 hour to convince the Oma-2 Coyote to move. Race and Jake regain consciousness in their avatar forms and Jake starts telling them about the DJ's plans. He admits that he was sent there as a spy, but now things have changed. Hurt by this betrayal, Terry lashes out at him and leaves. Jake and Grace are then taken captive. The RDA sends hovercraft to the home tree and starts getting them out. Refusing to run, the amateur kind of fights back, but their arrows are useless against the heavy steel of the crap. It's the hovercraft then fired the missiles of the natives, and at the home tree the tree immediately lights up on fire as the Navi make a run for their lives. Jack and Grace are tied to the post, unable to escape until Maud approaches them. She set them free, telling them that if they are indeed one of them, then they should help them. The firing continues that the home tree's roots causing the trunk to finally break. The home tree toppled over and kills 100 Navi by crushing them on the ground. Neytiri searches for survivors and finds her father with a shard to his chest. With his dying breath, he bestows upon her his bow and arrows and makes her promise to fulfill her duties. Jug finds her in the rubble, but Neytiri pushes them away, yet telling him to never come back. Back at the facility, Jake and Grace are taken out of the simulation once again and are arrested while Jake's avatar body collapses among the debris as the avatar scene lay in their cell. Trudy busts them out. They hijack one of the helicopters and escape. Unluckily, Grace takes a hit to the stomach. Jake patches her up as they may get back to the original outpost. They relocated higher up the mountains where the RDA can't get to would easily. Jake gets back into simulation and formulate a plan. Once he's back in his avatar form, he calls out his eat crab cake, knows that there's only one way the Oma-2 Kyle will listen to him. Together they hunt down the Turing with nowhere left to go. The I'm into Kyle are forced to take rough huge at the last remaining tree of souls. As they wait for an answer to their prayers, they hear a strong gust of wind behind them and gasp in horror as they see the talk flying towards them. It lands on the ground and Terry is shocked to see that Jake has managed to tame the mighty beast. This we gains the respect of the Navi. Jake is suited to join him in the fight against the humans and he agrees. Jug that brings Grace to Navi, asking him to save her life. He then takes her human body to the Tree of Souls. Together with her avatar body, and the clan perform the ritual to try and transfer Grace's consciousness into her avatar, for when it was too late, Grace's wound was too deep and she died before the ritual was over. Or Jake knows that this battle is far from over. Together with Sute, they rally up the Oma-2 kayak and they traveled to the neighboring clans, gathering Naveen from the plains, seas and mountains to join them in the battle for their homes. By the end of the day, they managed to gather over 2,000 Navi that the Tree of Souls. Through intel, Jake learns the DJ's plans to bomb the Tree of Souls. He then forms a plan to lure them through the floating mountains, then attack them there. Even before they reach the sacred place, Shake prays to I was at the Tree of Souls for guidance. As morning breaks, the RTA launches the hovercraft along with the bombs. The Navi clans wait for them among the following mountains. Not long after, the clans from the plains take action in charge of the machine suit survey. The grounds two Navi take the first fire, flying around the hovercraft and shooting them down with their arrows. They manage to take down a few helicopters, but the company's armory is too strong. The launch fires that the Navi with their guns, taking down quite a number of them. Colonel Quaritch spots Jake on the rock and starts firing at him. Jake escaped the line of fire, luring the colonel's hovercraft deeper into the mountains. Suddenly, Trudy and her helicopter intervenes. She shoots fire at the colonel, allowing Jake to escape. Meanwhile, Neytiri's icon is taken down and she lands on the ground, witnessing the devastation that the humans have caused. Sute launches a heroic act of the main hovercraft, taking away a number of men, unloading the bombs before gunned down and falls to the ground. The now bees are overwhelmed as they retreat deeper into the forest. Suddenly the hovercraft picks up a different movement in a matter of seconds. Various Pandora and wildlife come charging at the machines as the Grand takes over the skies, taking down the remaining crafts. Neytiri interpret this as a sign of health from a walk. Jake then lands off the main hovercraft carrying the bombs and takes down their machine guns. He runs around the craft expertly avoiding fire and launches a grenade at one of the engines. The craft goes down and blows up among the mountains. He launches several more grenades of the colonel's craft. With courage manages to escape using a mechanical suit. The grenades blow up and Jake is tossed back into the sky and lands back to the ground. The colonel survives the blow and starts hunting down the outpost. Porridge reaches the location of the simulators just in time as Neytiri makes a launch at him. Porridge takes her down and traps her beneath the trunks of a tree. As he's about to stab her, Jake appears and fights him. Jake is able to hold him off, breaking his knife and the protective glass around the suit. The colonel gasps for air and then starts targeting Jake's real body. Instead, he breaks up with a glass of the outpost and destroys the simulators. Jake stabs him on the neck as the colonel drags his body. Neytiri frees herself and launches an arrow straight to the colonel's heart. She launches another arrow to finish the kill. Meanwhile, Jake emerges from the simulator dragging his body to reach for the air masks. The poisonous air knocks him out and he's unable to breathe. Later he realizes what's happening and she climbs inside the outpost and puts the air mask on Jake. She sees his real body for the first time and they hold each other, clothes back in his avatar form. Jake and Neytiri find Take, who begs Jake to kill him off so that he would die a noble death as he takes his last breath. Suited acknowledges Jake is his brother and passes the chieftainship to him. Jake accepts this with gratitude. The war is now over and the novice of one the facility is destroyed and that humans are sent back on their ships to Earth. Jake, Norm and a few other humans are given permission by the Naveen to stay. Jake is now crowned as the new chief of the Overtutai clan. On his due birthday, he is taken to the Tree of Souls with Neytiri where they perform a ritual transferring his consciousness to his new avatar body. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and click the bell icon.